Hello and welcome everybody to today's edition of Mexico News Network's Breaking News Business. I'm your host, Elliot Bullman. Remember to follow us on all our social networks and to catch us every day by logging on to our website, mexiconewsnetwork.com, for relevant stories and news. Let's start with today's show. Faced with threats by President Donald Trump to put a tax on remittances, the Mexican government has a plan to shield the dollars sent every day by more than 11 million Mexican migrants from the United States. The federal government, together with the legislature and bankers, has drafted a plan that aims to reduce the costs of sending remittances and thereby offset the tax proposed by Trump, said Mario Di Costanzo, president of the National Commission for the Protection and Defense of the Users of Financial Services. To reduce the cost of sending money, the Secretaries of Finance and Foreign Affairs are associating with the Association of Banks of Mexico to allow bank accounts to be opened on the internet with no resource limit, which will not generate a cost for withdrawing users. Another part of the plan is to provide information to Mexican migrants about alternatives to shield not only dollars, but also their assets and savings in that country. One option is for migrants to give up housing, business, and vehicle rights to relatives or trusted acquaintances through a power of attorney issued by the US authorities. To carry out this process, you can use the lawyers within the consulates of Mexico located in the United States to provide legal assistance. Moving on. In a recent CNBC interview, U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross argued that one of the problems with NAFTA is that the minimum wage in Mexico hasn't climbed as fast as it should. The theory of NAFTA had been a gradual convergence of living standards between Mexico and the United States, he said. That really hasn't happened on the Mexican side. The minimum wage has barely gone up in peso terms. That means that employers can still find significantly cheaper labor in Mexico. It also means that Mexican workers don't have the money to buy higher-priced US-made goods. The peso has depreciated quite a lot against the dollar, he told senators. So, on a purchasing power basis, the average Mexican worker is far worse off than he was 5 or 10 years ago. That was not the original intent of NAFTA. Ross, though, is actually wrong when he says that the Mexican minimum wage has barely gone up in peso terms. The Mexican minimum wage has increased 11 times since 2009, rising by about 50%, whereas the US minimum wage hasn't increased since 2009. But even with all those increases, the Mexican minimum wage is a fraction of the US minimum wage. Workers in Mexico must be paid at least 80 pesos a day, which works out to only $4. The US minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. In other headlines, Mexico has cancelled existing sugar export permits to the United States to avoid penalties in a dispute over the pace of shipments, partly blaming the issue on unfulfilled positions at the US Department of Commerce. The dispute centers on an interpretation of how the Mexican government issues export licenses to ensure supplies enter the United States at a regulated pace. The order sent by Mexico's sugar chamber to mills on Monday said existing permits would be reissued in April. Mexico's sugar mills are currently in full swing at the height of the harvest. The Mexican Economy Ministry decided to cancel the permits since it has no counterparts at the Commerce Department in Washington to resolve the issue. Trump has not filled staff positions in several departments yet, situation Mexican officials say that has made it hard to negotiate on trade issues. Mexico's sugar quota, set annually by a 2014 trade deal, was established at 820,000 tons in the current 2016-17 crop year. And finally, let's turn to the markets. The Mexican peso increased 0.42% to 19.76 from 19.68 in the previous trading session. IPC Mexico increased 0.25% to 47,539 from 47,419 in the previous trading session. This was all for today. Thank you for staying with us. I'm your host, Elliot Bullman. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and log on to mexiconewsnetwork.com for more information on Mexico and the world. Until next time.